A sleepless night for Ukrainians in Kramatorsk after a deadly Russian missile strike on the city centre.
The jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny says the biggest threat to Russia is the regime of President Putin, not Wagner.
NATO members meet in The Hague for a meeting ahead of next week's Vilnius summit, with the recent fallout in Russia dominating the agenda. Firefighters continue to search through the rubble of a restaurant in eastern Ukraine following a deadly Russian missile strike on Kramatorsk city centre. At least 9 people are known to have died, including a teenager, and 56 are injured. But there are fears those numbers could skyrocket.
Ну, мы сидели в ресторане, мы были 4, и в принципе ничего, все было нормально, и в один раз сразу бум, ты ничего не слышишь до этого, сразу очень сильно бум, и везде кровь, стекло, видел люди на улице, даже маленький бэби мы видели совсем с кровь.
A supermarket in the city of Kherson was also struck on Tuesday. No casualties were reported. The Russian armed forces now appear to be targeting both homes and businesses. Ukrainian authorities say the tactics employed aim to deprive residents of jobs and access to basic food and sanitary products. In his nightly address, President Vladimir Zelensky condemned Russia for the missile strikes, saying it proves Moscow deserves defeat and a tribunal to be judged. Meanwhile, the Russian Defense Ministry announced its troops successfully repelled 7 attacks by Kyiv's forces in the Donetsk direction. A Ukrainian command post and communications center in the Donetsk region were reportedly destroyed.
The jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny has said the biggest threat to Russia is the regime of President Vladimir Putin. Speaking from his cell via social media, Navalny's comments are his first since the aborted Wagner mutiny. He said there is no greater threat to Russia than the Putin regime. It wasn't the West or the opposition that shot down Russian helicopters over Russia. It wasn't the ACF that brought Russia to the brink of civil war. It was Putin personally who did this. I remind you that he personally pardoned all those convicts who were on their way to assassinate Shoigu and whoever else they wanted to kill. The rebellion by Wagner mercenary group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin, who is now said to be in exile in Belarus, has sparked Russia's largest political crisis in decades. Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko says he persuaded Russian President Vladimir Putin not to kill him.
Поэтому я подумал, ну замочить можем. Я и Путину сказал, замочить можем. Это не проблема, не с первого раза, так со второго. Я говорю, не делайте этого.
Lukashenko also says he's offered members of the Wagner group who've left Russia an abandoned military base in the country. But he also stressed they would not be used to guard the nuclear weapons Moscow has just been delivered. But having the Wagner mercenary group installed in Belarus is causing alarm in Poland and in the West generally.
Wszyscy widzimy, co się dzieje. Relokacja sił rosyjskich de facto w postaci prawdopodobnie grupy Wagnera na Białoruś. Także i przeniesienie tam szefa grupy Wagnera. Więc to są wszystko dla nas takie bardzo negatywne sygnały, które na pewno bardzo mocno chcemy postawić także naszym.
Washington says it will take measures against the Wagner group, which is also active in Africa. On Sunday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said everywhere that Wagner goes, death and destruction follows.
Events in Russia have featured strongly at a preparatory meeting in The Hague ahead of next month's full NATO summit in Vilnius. The military alliance says Moscow's unfolding political crisis is creating an even more volatile and more unpredictable environment, particularly in the Baltic region.
We all saw the events in Russia over the last days. These are internal Russian matters, but what is clear is that President Putin's illegal war against Ukraine has deepened divisions and created new tensions in Russia. At the same time, we must not underestimate Russia. So it's even more important that we continue to provide Ukraine with our support.
If Wagner deploys its serial killers in Belarus, all neighboring countries face even greater danger of instability. Under such circumstances, deterrence and forward defense is a top priority.
And in Vilnius, we must take clear steps that are supported by all member countries. Steps that send a clear message to everyone, including Moscow. Ukraine's future and rightful place lies within NATO.
There is a long agenda for the Vilnius summit, including the alliance's next leader. Multiple sources suggest Jens Stoltenberg might be asked to remain in the job for an extra year.
France's President Emmanuel Macron will host NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg here in Paris this Wednesday, a meeting that, according to the Élysée Palace, had been set up prior to the dramatic events we saw unfold in Russia over the weekend, a meeting that was originally designed to prepare for the NATO summit in Vilnius in July. But of course, a meeting that will be dominated by that failed Wagner rebellion in Russia and what that means for the war in Ukraine. Emmanuel Macron, who has reportedly followed the developments in Russia hour by hour throughout the weekend, he was in constant communication with his American, German and British counterparts and has come forward to say that what happened in Russia unveils the cracks, the divisions within Russia's camp, as well as the fragility of Vladimir Putin's army, as well as those auxiliary forces such as the Wagner Group. It's going to be interesting to see just what comes out of that meeting concretely. Both men agree on the necessity to continue to support Ukraine in its counter-offensive and will most likely develop new ways for that partnership to continue to be strong and unanimous across the alliance. Emmanuel Macron is also reportedly going to push for the rapid ratification of Sweden's membership following that of Finland's. Annalise Borges in Paris for Euronews.
Descendants of two Polish Nazi victims have filed compensation claims to the value of 4.3 million euros against German companies Bayer and Henschel. During the war, Henschel took over a company owned by Leopold Wellis, while the second victim, Tadeusz Sledzinski, was sent to a forced labour camp for a subsidiary of Bayer.
Tadeusz Śledziński zarabiał przed wojną 950 zł. Był świetnym inżynierem, 29 patentów, Leopolda Wellisza, majętnego i finansistę, i przedsiębiorcę, i filantropa. My idziemy w kierunku odszkodowania, w kierunku twardych danych, to znaczy tyle by zarabiał, gdyby nie wojna. My uznajemy taką sytuację, że jeżeli ktoś skorzystał z czyjejś szkody, to powinien zadośćuczynić. To jest rozumienie sprawiedliwości.
This private lawsuit comes parallel to relentless demands from the Polish government for reparations from the German side.
Nasze działania mają charakter przede wszystkim informacyjny, ale także dyplomatyczny. My staramy się przede wszystkim zainteresować organizacje międzynarodowe, ale też partnerów międzynarodowych problematyką braku sprawiedliwości po II wojnie światowej dla różnych krajów, asymetrycznym traktowaniem Niemców, różnych krajów i różnych narodów. Wskazujemy, że to narusza elementarne zasady prawa międzynarodowego, praworządności, praw człowieka.
The coordinator of cooperation between Poland and Germany's Foreign Affairs Ministry told Euronews he couldn't comment on the issue in the coming weeks. In an email, the German embassy in Poland said the German government's position on reparation claims was unchanged and that the issue was closed. They said they were following the court proceedings in the Polish court but did not want to comment any further. Experts say while World War II crimes remain a fraught issue, they don't threaten Polish-German relations.
Dziedzictwo II wojny światowej ciąży nad stosunkami polsko-niemieckimi i pewnie w kolejnych dekadach będzie je obciążało. Jest pewna obawa przed precedensem. Krótko mówiąc, gdyby Niemcy stwierdzili, gdyby strona niemiecka stwierdziła, że wypłaci Polsce reparacje, czy to całe, czy jakąś część, to niemal na pewno w kolejce ustawiłyby się inne kraje.
Today the opinions of Poles on the issue of reparations from Germany are divided. Some say that the subject should be already closed. Others that only compensations will close it. Germans, on the other hand, seem to pretend that the topic does not exist. Magdalena Hodownik for Euronews from Warsaw.
Human remains found in Californian mountains have been confirmed to be those of British actor Julian Sands, who went missing on a hike in January. Police say walkers found the remains on Saturday and they have now been formally identified. The 65-year-old actor was best known for his roles in the Oscar-winning film A Room with a View and TV dramas 24 and Smallville. His other credits include 2011's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
A fresco featuring various food items, including what appears to be a pizza, has been discovered by excavators in the ancient Italian city of Pompeii. The key ingredients associated with pizza, namely tomatoes and mozzarella, do not feature in the fresco painting, but archaeologists say that those ingredients did not exist some 2,000 years ago. Instead, what's believed to be a focaccia bread is topped with fruits and spices, or a type of pesto. The comparison is even more relevant when considering that Pompeii sits about 30 kilometres south of Naples, the birthplace of modern pizza.